Welcome back to the Juggle is Real. I'm Andryanna, and this recording, it feels pretty special. I don't know how it happened, but somehow we are at 200 episodes of the Juggle is Real podcast, 200 conversations and just recordings that have happened between school pickups and hockey practice. And some have been early morning and some have been late in the evening, and just going through life changes and moving and stress and growth and healing from burnout and just everything in between. And so before I get into today's episode, before anything else, please let me just say thank you. Whether you have listened to one episode, if this is your first episode, welcome. If you listened to 100 episodes, like whether you found this podcast, like 5 years ago when we first started or just last week, honestly, thank you so much for being here. One thing that this podcast has shown me over and over and over again is just how much women are quietly carrying. And I never, never, never take it lightly, never take it for granted. Just the fact that you're choosing to spend your time here with me on a walk, in the car, folding laundry, just sitting in a parking lot, taking a few breaths, trying to regulate before going back into the chaos of your day. I've tried to make this podcast always just about real life and not a perfect life and not an aesthetic life, the real stuff. And I can say that after 200 episodes and conversations with experts and doctors and therapists, educators, authors, founders, mothers, and just everyday people, whether I saw you at an arena or in a bathroom, or I got a DM from you on Instagram or on Facebook or on LinkedIn. There are just certain things that we can't ignore, and it's not just about what is making women feel worse. Because we know like the list is long, and I could be the Debbie Downer to talk about all the things that are wrong. But why I'm here still after 200 episodes is to talk about what genuinely helps women feel better. So that is what I want to focus on today. Not like here's five, like 200 episodes, but I still have trouble speaking sometimes. I don't want to give 5 life hacks. I don't want to give here's my top tips, but I do want to be here to talk about what I've noticed after years of listening closely to women. What is hurting us? What are those pressures that we're feeling? What is disconnecting us from ourselves? But then also what is really supporting us? What is helping us to regulate? What is lightening the load in a real way? And what actually works day to day in real life where you are right now? So for this episode, I want to talk about that emotional overload, of course, and why self-awareness alone is not enough. I want to talk about the pressures we're feeling and how wellness, how is wellness becoming another form of pressure. I want to talk about why connection matters more than we realize. And then the things that are consistently, no matter who I'm speaking to or what research I'm finding, what is actually helping us feel more calm, feel lighter, more supported, and more like ourselves. Because we are not failing. This life we are living in right now is just a lot. So if that is something that you want to hear about today, let's dive right in.
This is the Juggle is Real podcast. I hope you feel seen, that you realize your worth, lighten your load, and prioritize your own needs. As we hear from leading experts and well-known faces in the wellness, entrepreneurship, education, and motherhood space, I hope you gain insights, proven practices, and learn actionable tools to help you enjoy the juggle of work, family, and everything in between with a little less stress and a lot more ease, joy, and fun. Most of all, I hope you find what you need to simplify, streamline, and supercharge your own journey of better balance and self-love. Are you with me? Let's get started.
Okay, so, 200 episodes later, one of the biggest things that I have really realized is that we are not struggling because we're incapable. We are so incredibly capable. But life really is asking too much of us. Like we're struggling in this modern world because the human body and nervous system was not built to manage and deal with all of the things that we are doing today at this day and age. And I really, really believe that because when you look at the bigger picture, when you're zooming out and you actually are considering what we as women are carrying right now, it is ridiculous. Like it is so intense and it's not just physical or mental or emotional or cognitive. Like it is just like all of it combined because the amount of information that we are processing in a single day, like it is just bonkers, like it's unbelievable when you look at the schedules and appointments and keeping up with text messages and emails and the school forms that come in. Of course, our expectations with our work and our careers and our jobs, and you got meal planning thrown in, and just the emotional labor of it all. And then on top of that, like what's happening in the news and what's happening around the world, like we never knew what was happening outside of our own towns and backyards. And now we're getting all of these notifications about horrible things that are happening. And then there's the group chats, and of course, our social media, and just the mental tabs that are open and continuously more keep opening and opening without closing any of those tabs. And then we're also on top of it all, we're trying to be healthier. We want to be quote unquote well, and we want to be more productive, and we want to be more present and more emotionally regulated and organized and successful. And we want to be self aware. And at the end of the day, it's just relentless. I think the best word to describe this modern world that we're living in is relentless. And I feel that I'm actually pretty confident that many women are quietly interpreting their overwhelm as some sort of personal failure, as if they're not doing something right and they just have to keep trying to figure it out, instead of recognizing that we are just trying to function inside of systems that are not allowing us to fully exhale. And this perspective shift, it matters because when we as women believe that we are the problem, something's wrong with us, like why can't I manage it all? The solution, if we're the problem, is just like push harder, try harder, do more. But if we realize how relentless this world is, and the problem is that this is genuinely too much for one person to carry without having the supports and the tools, then instead of the solution being, well, just try harder, girl, the solution changes. And what if the answer becomes sharing the load, lowering the pressure that we put on ourselves, asking for the help we need, putting a few of the balls down that we're juggling and getting the rest and finding that community and simplifying life so that we can actually have real support within boundaries that are helping us and caring for our nervous systems. I feel like this is a very different conversation. And that's why I'm still here after 200 episodes, because I can tell you that 5 years ago, the conversation was a little different. And it was just kind of like, hey, we'll just do a little more self care. And I've really tried to shift out of that. And it's not that I don't think caring for ourselves is important, because it's more important than ever. It's how we feel about it and how we are telling ourselves what it is that is going to care for us. You know what I mean? So I do want to talk about this notion of self-awareness, because when I say like we are needing that support, another thing that I've really come to notice after 200 episodes is that we are incredibly self-aware, more so than ever, because we we understand our attachment styles and what's your enneagram and what's your energy style and astrology and numerology and all of the things. We are so incredibly intelligent. We know about burnout and trauma response, and we know about people pleasing, and we are understanding more about our nervous system and what boundaries really are, how to set them, and syncing our cycles, and understanding more about, protein and fiber and whatever, like we consume so much information. And awareness. Awareness matters. To become aware of something that you did not know is so important. But like, this is just the starting point, because to be aware of something without actually being able to find that support, the tool to move into action, well, that's just another form of self monitoring and another reason to feel bad about yourself, you know? And women, we have become incredibly good at analyzing ourselves, but we're not actually moving into feeling better. And that's hard. Like, that is so hard, because just having the awareness, just knowing and the insight alone, that's not what's going to change your life. And so at some point, understanding more about yourself, understanding more about these patterns and how life is hard, it has to become moving into something, not just knowing, you know, like there's the phrase like, once you know better, you can do better. But I feel like we aren't always doing better. And I get it that the systems aren't built for support, but sometimes the support, it's just something that maybe we're not willing to look into, because sometimes the support doesn't look very sexy, you know, like it's not the cool, trendy thing to do to go to bed earlier, or to actually have a difficult conversation with your partner to let them know that you need more help, or saying no sooner, and maybe actually disappointing someone in a small way so that you can support yourself. Or maybe it's not over explaining why you just like, you can't go to someone's something or other next weekend. Or maybe it's muting the group chat, which can feel uncomfortable, and actually taking time to eat breakfast or book the appointment or go outside and take a breath of fresh air, and just like move through that uncomfortable feeling, and letting something be good enough instead of constantly striving for perfection. And the things that help are often, they're just not as dramatic than social media and the internet and like all of these articles make things seem. Because even like after all of these conversations with the most incredible and intelligent and inspiring people, like it always comes down to the little things. And so this brings me to another area and another huge shift that I've seen in the last 200 episodes of recording the Juggle is Real podcast, is that wellness has really become just another thing that we are failing at as women. Like, just here's another thing that we can make you feel bad about. And it has been a big shift that I've noticed over the last few years. You know, wellness as care started off in sort of this place where it was like women wanting to feel better and more informed and stronger and more supported and feeling well, like actually being well, you know, the well being part of being well. But then somewhere along the way, I guess through big business and marketing and just like this trajectory has changed, and wellness has become just something to perform, you know, like another performance that women have to like totally get right, to track our sleep and to track our steps and optimize our hormones and have the perfect morning routine and take all of these supplements and cold plunge and peptides and red light therapy and, you know, consuming so much protein and cortisol hacks. And like, I know we've talked about this, especially in recent episodes, but women are suddenly just so exhausted trying to do wellness correctly. And so, after so many conversations in this space, there is like one common thread that is just so clear. And that is, if your wellness, if that well-being routine is constantly making you feel like you're behind or guilty because you're not doing it right, or just you feel like you're failing at being well, it's probably not that support that you need. It's probably not supporting your nervous system and your body and actually making you well. Because true wellness, it should support your life and complement it and not become yet another source of pressure within it. And usually, you know, the things that consistently help women feel better, again, my friend, they are not the trendy, cool things. We're coming back to sleeping more, moving your body more, taking a walk, being outside, lifting something heavy. Yes, of course, it's going to be eating balanced meals with protein and fiber, but it's also like reconnecting with friends and laughter and friendship and feeling emotionally safe, feeling like more supported and less overstimulated and having that connection. It's like going outside and doing a little bit less because the basics, they are called the basics, and we call them like, the boring things. They matter because they work and they're not flashy, and it's not like maybe the coolest thing to do, and it doesn't come in a pretty package, but like this is what is continuing to help us through all of the things. And then I guess the other thing I wanted to talk about, and I've been talking about it more and more in recent episodes, is this thread of connection. And this one really does feel huge to me because, 200 episodes later, I am more convinced than ever that our relationships, they regulate us more than we could even realize, more than like a yoga class or like, breath work. It's like our community and our friendships and feeling understood and just feeling seen without being needed for something, and these things do matter deeply. And of course, there's research that supports all of the things that we're talking about today. And the studies on longevity and our emotional well being, they consistently show and they point to the strong social connections being one of the biggest predictors of our long-term health and wellness and well-being, and it's not optimizing and being more productive. It's connecting with one another. And so that's why I'm so grateful that you're here, because many women are just profoundly lonely in ways that we don't fully talk about. And we're not necessarily physically alone because we're around people all the time, but maybe we're under supported emotionally. Maybe we are, needed constantly and we're doing things and giving to everyone, but we're not fully held in like the ways that make us feel supported. And that's part of why simple things can feel so healing. Just having a long conversation, having like a laugh. Like, I know it's like the bare minimum, but like sending a meme to someone who knows you deeply and like could just laugh with like the dumb things with you, And it is about making time to go for the walk or sit on the patio and just feel like you don't have to perform. And these things are what regulates us. I think there's studies and research that show like just being around someone who is regulated is more regulating than trying to like do all the things to try to regulate yourself. It's not extra. And being with someone where you can kind of go back and forth on that, like that is so foundational. But I think the longest, the most like deep, and the biggest, I guess, lesson, if you want to call it that, is that we as women, like, we do not need to reinvent ourselves. What we need is relief. Women have been internalized to feel the belief that we should be constantly improving ourselves and becoming better and healthier, and we need more discipline. And of course, there's some sort of trauma that we have to heal, and we should optimize ourselves. But like, there have been a lot of conversations where, okay, that's good and all, but at the end of the day, we do not need this total overhaul and to become a whole new person. We just need to be safe within ourselves. We need the relief and support and the honesty, and to be more realistic with ourselves and our own expectations, and feel that we have space and room to be human. And so many women, like, we are just trying so incredibly hard. And I can tell you that in every single space that I'm in, whether it's like a mastermind or a women's retreat or like hockey mom space, or even like speaking with experts and being on panels and all of these things, I have rarely seen women truly, truly thrive from adding more pressure to our already overloaded lives. The thing that is typically making women feel better, it happens when our pressure is lowered, when we feel less shame, when there is an increase of feeling supported, and we can learn to regulate, and the nervous system can get out of that fight, flight, or freeze mode. We stop trying to earn rest and take it for what it is, being so necessary. And we stop treating ourselves like another to do, like a project that like we have to complete. Because that shift, it really does, like at the end of the day, that is where there's a shift. And that is what can actually create change, to move between the awareness and knowing and actually being. So let's talk about the things that actually help, because after 200 episodes, and I'm going to say it a lot, like it's a 200th episode. I got to talk about 200 episodes, right? Like here is what I do know, because like we get it. Like it's not the dramatic overhaul that changes your life. It is the small things that are done consistently. It is sleeping enough. It is laughing harder. It is going outside and walking and texting your friend and having an honest conversation, saying no, asking, to be supported in a small way, even though you can do it. It's reducing the stimulation and putting your phone down, taking those breaks and feeling emotionally safe, feeling like you're understood and connected. And I know I call it these little things, like, but they're not. The little things matter because life is mostly made up of little things. And even though when we scroll on our phones, we are like we are shown, and all of these things all around us makes us feel like growth only counts if it's dramatic. But real life change is usually a little quieter than that. It's more support and more softness and more honesty and more connection, more regulation, and more room to breathe. So I've got some sick kids at home today, but I had to record this episode because 200 episodes later, the juggle, it is still very real. And women are still carrying a lot. And modern life it's not like holding up. It's not getting any quieter. It's still going to be demanding and overstimulating. But we can ask for something different now, and we can actually lean into the things that are going to help. That's less performance and less pressure and less perfection, and leaning into the connection and honesty and support and regulation and feeling alive and being human and having this once in a lifetime experience. We're all doing this for the first time that we know of, and so maybe that's why all of these episodes and conversations have really, maybe that's what it's been about, underneath it all, not becoming perfect. It's never been about that, but feeling like you can lean into and feel supported inside your life. And so if this podcast has ever made you feel less alone or more understood or more hopeful, more regulated, a little more human, then honestly, that means the world. Like that means everything to me. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing these episodes with friends. Thank you for tuning in and listening, subscribing. Thank you for trusting me with your real life. And so here is to continuing the conversation. I can't wait to see you in episode 201 and beyond that. There's some really good ones coming up. We're talking ADHD, we're talking getting ready for summer, we're talking like just some really good conversations. But until then, thank you so much. Take good care.